Okay, well, listen, welcome to Built to Last Live, right? We're building stronger foundations for ourselves, our families, our businesses, and our communities. I'm Terry Brown Taylor, founder and CEO of Built to Last, and I want to personally welcome you. Thank you for being here tonight. You may be new to the Built to Last ecosystem, or you may have been around town for a while, but whatever the case, you're in for a treat tonight. We have a dynamic, just amazing, knowledgeable, driven, all of the things guest speaker tonight, and more importantly than all of his accolades, which he will share. He is about the people, and that's where our hearts and minds align. And so we always want to make sure we bring, especially in these days and times, I believe people don't need more, fluff. They need flavor so that they can execute and start getting ahead. And so I am personally welcoming you tonight. And what I'll say is now would be a great time to hit the like, the subscribe, the share button. Go and invite Pookie and them and Grandmom and them, because again, tonight what we'll be talking about is never not a good day for financial stability and security and financial wealth, right? There's never not a good day for that. And it's never not a bad opportunity to get information that doesn't equate to just more information, but information that you can implement, not just consuming more education, but education that you can execute. Not about increasing your faith through more word, but empowering you to action with your faith. And so, go ahead, invite, share, share this out, because we want to be able to hit as many homes as we can. And when you share it, you give us an opportunity to do that. At Built to Last, we believe one simple truth: you can never build a lasting future on a weak foundation. Every home begins with a foundation. Every successful business begins with some sort of foundation. Every healthy family begins with a foundation. Every legacy begins with a foundation. No builder, and I am a licensed general contractor, and as a builder, I'm not going to start without some foundational work. Now we got to lay some stuff, and sometimes that means excavating. And so even tonight, you may hear some things that may uproot or need to uproot some old patterns of thoughts, old patterns of behaviors and habits, and that's okay, right? We always want to continue to progress, but if you're going to build and you're going to build strategically, smartly, solidly, it's important that you root up some stuff so you can replant some stuff. No architect skips the blueprint. No engineer ignores the footing, because what is built beneath the surface determines what can stand above it. The same is true with our finances. The difference between those who weather economic storms and those who are shaken by them often isn't income, it is preparation, it's foundation, it's systems, it's stewardship. That's why we're called Built to Last, because that is, we believe fundamentally, that if you don't build in a sustainable way, or a lasting way, then what are you doing? Right? Why are you doing it? You'll be constantly spinning your wheels, and we don't want you to do that. We aren't here to help people simply make more money. Um, we're here to help people build lives, financial systems, businesses, and legacies that can withstand uncertainty and serve generations to come. Okay. And here's the encouraging news: it doesn't matter where you're starting today, whether you're trying to get out of a debt or you're building your first emergency fund, whether you're trying to purchase your first home or launch a business, scale an investment portfolio, or prepare to leave an inheritance. You can begin building today, because transformation doesn't begin with perfection, it begins with alignment. The first day Curtis and I was in a room actually together, there was, I think I was speaking and he was vending. But something I said I'm sure my words wasn't that sophisticated or that just grandiose, or it wasn't on this wide scale that he hadn't heard before, because he's mad intelligent. But there was something that I said that aligned with who he is and what his mission purposes are. And so that alignment brought us together. And I think now that's been about 3 or 4 years, and we've been rocking ever since. And so when you're thinking aligns with wisdom, when your decisions align with purpose, when your actions align with proven principles, your life begins to change immediately, right? Someone asked me the other day, what is the difference? Why do you think some people, it takes them a lifetime to arrive at a certain place or to get breakthroughs? And I believe, right, this is my personal opinion, I believe because we can get an agreement, just like believers of the word, we can get in agreement with the word, but do we get in alignment with the word? And when we get in alignment with something, we embrace it as our own and we walk it out from that place, right? And so you have coaches and people, I believe Curtis will concur with this, that no matter how much we try to give, it sometimes feel like we are pushing and pulling because the person won't get in alignment with what it is we are suggesting them to do. They came to us, right? And so you would think they would be on the ready to do, what we're suggesting. However, that's not always the case. And I think therein lies misalignment. And when you are misaligned, you ain't going nowhere. And I
Right.
did say ain't because I'm from North Philly, Gervis from North Philly, and I like to say ain't. And so, you ain't going nowhere. And so getting in alignment with proven principles are super important. Your life begins to change immediately. And that's why every Tuesday at 6 p.m. we gather as a community of builders, not spectators, but builders. Because here is the truth: no one builds something significant alone. I want to say that for the people who are somehow, been taught to go it alone. This is not possible. And it's I don't like to say stupid, right? That's a strong word.
I do.
Um,
No.
okay, yeah, Curtis will say it, right? That's my man, Money Grand. He'll say it. But it's just unwise and it's unnecessary. I will say that, because no one builds something significant alone. Throughout history, the greatest cities, businesses, ministries, and movements were built by communities of people who shared vision, wisdom, accountability, and purpose. And that's exactly what we're creating here. Every week, we'll bring you conversations that educate you, equip you, and empower you to execute. We'll explore topics such as financial literacy and money management, building financial stability and long term security, entrepreneurship and business ownership, real estate investing and wealth creation, credit, capital, and funding strategies, estate planning and legacy building, asset protection and tax strategies, insurance and risk management, passive and residual income, biblical stewardship and faith-based wealth principles. I shy away from it, but AI is a thing. I don't like to use it. They say I underuse it because I want to hold on to my authenticity. But it has its place, right? And so, one of the things you want to use it for is to get up somewhere faster, right? Like you tap into these things to get speed. And not only speed, but flow and ease of access and reduce paths of least resistance, right? Or no, yes, or reduce paths with more resistance. It helps you take paths of least resistance, and leverage technology. Nonetheless, leadership mindset and personal growth, family economics, and generational wealth, which is something that Curtis just can spin wheels around the best of them, and he knows it inside out. is something that he not only teach, and that's another place we align. We're not just teachers here. We have lived experience, right? We're living this thing out. Teaching is great. There's a place for them, but you want the experts, right? That combines education with the lived experience. You'll hear experienced investors, financial professionals, attorneys, CPAs, bankers, insurance specialists, estate planning experts, tax strategists, entrepreneurs, developers, kingdom leaders, and people who have successfully built what many only dream about. Why? Because we believe access changes outcomes. I mean, that's just simple. I like to say exposure leads to expansion. And if you're not exposed, if you're not in the right rooms, then it's hard. And speaking of rooms, Curtis and I have some rooms next week that you can get in, and we're going to talk about towards the end. And I'm a big proponent of this, that right now and just in life period, you want to be mindful of what you and who you allow in your eye gate, your ear gate, and your heart gate. Because if you pile it up with more of the wrong things in people, then the things that can actually transform your life is shut out, right? And so then you find yourself in these perpetual cycles of nothing and nowhere, right? But that we say we done with that. We done with that. And so you want to make sure that you get in rooms that can elevate you, and not just use the going buzzwords of the day. The right conversation can change your thinking, and the right strategy can change your finances. The right community can change your future. So before we get started, I want you to do me a favor once again. I want you to subscribe to the channel. I want you to like today's broadcast. I want you to share it with someone you love, and tap in with us every Tuesday at 6 p.m. here. Yep, right here. Because here at Built to Last, we're not just building wealth, we're building wisdom, we're building ownership, we're building options, we're building freedom. And most importantly, we are building legacies that do what? They last, right? Because a good man or woman leaves an inheritance to his children's children. And speaking of generations, let me just shout out my alma mater, Roxborough High School, class of some way I think is on here. And the reason why I point this out, because I'm just your young girl from the projects of North Philadelphia. Came from very humble beginnings, but with resiliency and determination, and the Lord Almighty. Just reminding me, and me come having that encounter, it shifted my entire life. And so it doesn't matter where you start. That's the point. The point is, though, get started, stay on the wheel until you get the results that you desire to see. So many people flatline. They start and then they flatline immediately. And I'm going to venture to say one of the reasons why is because it's one thing to be fond of something, right? And get your emotions all riled up around concepts and things that are possible. But it's another thing to be so in love with it that you're committed to seeing a process all the way through. To me, y'all, that's the real flex. And so we're flexing tonight, y'all. We are flexing tonight. Tonight's conversation is the perfect example of what foundational building looks like. One of the greatest mistakes people make is believing that they have to rely on traditional banks for every financial opportunity. But what if your family could become its own source of capital? Like, I want you to pause and consider that. I want you to ponder that. What if your family could become its own source of capital? What if your money could continue working for you while creating opportunities for future generations? I'm going to say it again. What if your money could continue working for you while creating opportunities for future generations? Listen, one of the things we want to course correct around here is that, every generation shouldn't be starting from ground zero, nor should we constantly be passing down debt, right? Especially as a culture, as a people, to be here in 2026. amid racism and amid, just disenfranchisement and marginalization and all of those things that continue to live, that you would think that we would be at a different place, based on what we've been exposed to. Right, we have opportunities that are available to us, but why is it that we still don't have runway to create financially? Why is it that we still don't have, basic savings? I read a statistic the other day that the average person doesn't have $1,000 in a savings account, right? The majority of people, and of course that number was slimmer amongst African Americans. That is an alarming statistic in 2026. But if every generation focused on consumerism versus ownership, then this is what we get. But when we can shift that narrative and we can shift our focus, it positions us differently, and not just today, but for tomorrow and for generations to come. Some of the world's most successful families have understood the importance of keeping capital circulating within the family. Many people point to multi generational business families, such as the Rockefellers, as examples of intentional, long term planning and disciplined stewardship. Likewise, many close knit communities have emphasized reinvesting resources within their own communities to strengthen future generation. The principle is simple: when you control capital, you create options. When you control capital, you create the options, and options create opportunity. We also see throughout scripture, we rest here. That's where we land, and we get our blueprint from. That wisdom, stewardship, preparation, and leaving an inheritance are recurring principles. The Bible consistently points us towards planning, multiplying. He instructs us to be fruitful and multiply. He told us in Ecclesiastics 11 and 2, invest in seven, yes, eight ventures, because you don't know what dangers may come upon the land, right? There is this math equation. I don't think that God is one of addition. I believe he's one of multiplication. And what
Mhm.
we've been entrusted with, and managing resources faithfully rather than living from crisis to crisis. Tonight, we're going to explore one strategy that many families have used as part of a broader financial plan: personal and family banking, often referred to as infinite banking. I'm not going to act like I got the mastery of it. I'm still working it out in my own head, in my own space, and all of that. But that doesn't absolve me from knowing that it exists and that we need to constantly keep this before us, because I do believe that there is an intrinsic difference between the prepared and the unprepared. Right. And you can't wait to hit and be trying to get prepared, and Curtis will go into it a little bit more. Our guest is someone I deeply respect for his knowledge and his commitment to helping families think differently about money. Please help me. Yes, and you can put it in the chat. You can clap it up. Please help me welcome um my financial go-to. I mean, like, we don't talk. When we talk, we talk. But we fight a little bit. Sometimes I don't agree with what he says, and sometimes he doesn't agree with what I say. But I love that because we can disagree and the relationship is still intact, and we both can are still able to grow from, as a result of the relationship that we do have. So please help me welcome financial educator and wealth strategist Curtis May. Tonight,
Wow.
Curtis is going to help us understand what infinite banking is and what it is not, how families can think differently about building and controlling capital, and ways to leverage financial institutions more strategically, how this concept can fit into a broader wealth building and legacy plan, practical steps that you can begin taking to strengthen your own financial foundation. And let me tell you, tonight is just a tidbit, right? There's no way. I mean, first of all, once he start talking, that's why I'm getting all of the talking out. Because once he start talking, I ain't gonna be able to. I'm gonna be raising my hand. I'm gonna be texting them, and anybody got time for that tonight. I do want him to be able to freely share. But there's no way we can believe that just one setting we can accomplish everything. But the idea is to get the conversation started. Next week we have Escape Survival Challenge. He'll be one of our presenters there, and so for the VIP folks, you'll be able to go a little bit deeper with him. I'm going to tee him up for some questions that will allow you to do some personal stuff, because some everybody thinks that they could get it done on their own, but then you're going to quickly realize it's better when you got help, right? And the people
That's
who
right.
know what to do can get you there quicker. But nonetheless, you'll be able to tap into who he is and what all he provides a little bit more there. And then so that link should be in the chat right now. Go ahead and register today. There is a general admissions that's free, and then there's a VIP segment that is not free. And but the access that you get, the long-term access that you get, is just priceless, right? And so go ahead, it should be in the chat somewhere in the caption. But rather you're just getting started or you're looking to scale what you've already built, the principles we're discussing tonight can help you think bigger, steward better, and build with intention. Let's lean in. Go and get your pen and your paper. I want you to ask questions, right? And even if you're on the replay, I want you to type replay. And what we'll do, because this is such an important topic, we will look at these questions on a replay and we'll make sure you get the answers that you need. You'll also get contact information for us, so then you can follow up directly as well. But go ahead, go to get your notes, ask your questions, and get ready to build something that truly lasts. And one more thing, because people don't, build wealth alone, friends don't build by themselves. Take a moment as Curtis comes. He's already here, but as he tee himself up to introduce himself, and then I'm going to fire away with a bunch of questions after his intro. um, and take this moment now to go ahead and invite your neighbor, your friends, your colleagues, your children, right? A lot of us are building trust, and there are certain stipulations that, if the child doesn't learn X, Y, and Z, or some people don't even have that, which is a little, I don't want to say stupid, unwise, to me, because here you are building, and then you gonna hand it to somebody that can squander it in 2 days, right? No, 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 no. So they should be having pull a seat up to the table wherever you are tonight. Go ahead and invite your children, your husband, your spouses, and family, friends, and colleagues. Without further ado, welcome Curtis May.
All right. Thanks for having me. So, well, let me tell you a lot about myself. So, my name is Curtis May. I have a firm called Practical Wealth Solutions. I also host a podcast called The Practical Wealth Show. So, just kind of give you a framework. I help business owners, professionals, real estate investors ample answer one simple question. This is the first question. So banking is actually part two, step two, right? Which is, where did my money go? Okay. And because most people make good money, but they're losing wealth through taxes, debt, interest, and inefficient financial strategies. So the first thing that I do, I think there's more opportunity in helping people minimize their losses than there's trying to pick winning investments. So we find the money. We help people get organized. We help people improve their net cash flow. And then so that you can save, right? Because banking is a saving strategy. So, the framework, Terry, that we teach is earn money, bank it, Bank what? 10 to 30% of your income. Okay. Earn it, bank it, borrow it. So you're going to save it somewhere to let you be the bank, which we'll discuss the tool we use for that. Borrow it or borrow against it, spend it, repay it. Right. So it's earn it, bank it, borrow it, spend it, repay it. That's the framework. So what do you spend it on? Major capital purchases, which we describe as anything you can't pay for in full within your monthly cash flow. We use it for debt recapture, taxes sometime. I just had a person borrow from their banking system this week, borrow 300,000 that they had saved up, and they're helping their daughter get a house in California, San Diego, and they're going to pay rent, her and her roommate, back to their family banking system, and where I'm helping them set up the amortization schedules and that whole thing. They borrowed it, loaned it to the LLC, and then bought the house, right? So it's a process, right? So it's earn it, bank it, borrow it, spend. What do you other think you spend it on? See, so once you've cleaned up your personal economy, now you want to use your banking system to buy or build what we like to call cash flow engines or assets. What is an asset? Something that puts money in your pocket every month without you working, right? So the goal is to become financially free, financially independent. And this is just infinite banking is not the engine. It's really more of the turbocharger. Okay. So that's what I help people do. I help people build privatized banking systems to help money move towards them rather than away from them. Okay. So so what's our process? Earn it, bank it, borrow it, spend it, repay it. And so what you want to do, so a lot of people, what is infinite banking? So I like the word Terry used. I like the term capital, right? Because most people are way too undercapitalized, meaning they don't save. And so I want people to save money, right? So because people want to skip right to, well, what do I invest? I had somebody call me this afternoon. Hey, what do you think about what does she want to do? What's that? SpaceX. You want to invest in SpaceX? I said, okay. What? Why? I was on a webinar and they told me it was good. I said, well, okay. I said, well, how does that help you achieve your goals? I heard it was good. And that's how most people, deal with money. And so, one of the things I teach, and you let me know you want to go into this, but because banking is, we teach, so I kind of wrap it in a planning wrapper, right? So I teach principles based planning. And my framework is that principles drive strategy. Principles, how you think in your belief system and how you structure. And so Terry and I both like principles because principles work no matter what. Myron Golden says principles are God's automation, right? And so I say principles drive strategy. If you're talking, I don't hear you. Okay, so I see your lips moving. Okay. And the principles drive strategy. Strategy is what you do, and then strategy drives tactics. Tactic is what you buy. So if we're talking about infinite banking, the principle that precedes that is save, right? The strategy is infinite banking. So the question that we're answering with the strategy is, where do you store your capital?
Curtis, your screen is blurry. I'm not sure. Did a call come in, or because you were
No.
perfectly fine and then it's blurry. I'll send you a picture.
Okay.
So
No, I'm on my laptop. So it's not on my call. I'm on the phone. My picture looks great. I look great. I'm just kidding.
This guy. This
How you
guy.
doing? So
Okay. All right, finish telling them what they do, what you do.
Okay.
And then let me. This is what we.
Ask them some questions. Yes,
but you gotta have no. Don't you don't remember? Because he's so full. That's the the blessing. He's just so full, so he can just, he got so much to say. But I wanted you to finish telling them, just to give them an overview of
Yeah.
how you help families, and more importantly, how you just don't teach them, you don't just give them a fish, right? You teach them how to be fishermen.
Yeah.
And I believe that sincerely through the work that you do.
So I'm a
So
financial educator, right? So because I'm the guide, it's your money, right? And I call we call it the Money for Life financial operating system, but I am the guide. You're the like I'm I always tell people for your Star Wars fans, I'm Obi-Wan and you're Luke. Okay. And so I'm just letting you know now you know the force exists, but you need to learn how to become a Jedi. So that's our goal with the money is helping become good stewards of their money. And so we have we call the Money for Life blueprint, which is step one, control your cash flow. Step two, be the bank. The banking is where you can save 10 or 15% of your income. This is where we put most of it, not all of it, most of it. Three is maximum protection. So you have to look at your insurances. Do you have umbrella coverage? Do you have disability insurance? Do you have a will? Do you have a trust? Right. So you want to build what I call a moat around your castle. All right. And that's three. And then four is you want to build a legacy of wealth and more importantly, the wisdom to go along with that wealth. And that's kind of where we operate and we walk people through those four steps when we work with them.
okay, and he will definitely walk through it with you. But now, don't piss him off, because then you gonna have uh
Don't not do your homework because then you're gonna meet Coach Curtis. And Coach Curtis is not a nice man, all right? Because Coach's job is to win the game, not the popularity contest. And you give Coach Curtis to put his foot in your behind. So I'm just telling you, all right. So if like so one let me just get this out. I want you to get the book Becoming Your Own Banker by R. Nelson Nash. Okay, because the keyword is becoming. It's 85 pages. So don't tell me, oh, I don't like reading. People die so you can read. So I don't want to hear that. Okay. It's on Audible too. Okay. Because if you can't, it's 85 pages, it's barely a book. So if you can't read an 85-page book to help secure your financial future and how to manage capital, please do not call me. I'm telling you because because if I can't be your money and your financial life and your family can't be more important to me than it's you. So I have zero patience for that. That's stupid. Now there I said it.
okay.
Just kidding. All right.
No, listen. No, and listen, I mean, here's the honest to God truth too, right? If you want somebody to just be taking your money and having billable hours, when you could really just do some of this stuff and then allow somebody to fill in the gaps, which makes learning easier and allow you to execute quicker, then let's make that the goal, right? Because that ultimately should be our goal, and
Right.
especially for us who have maybe didn't start as early as we possibly could, right? The goal is to now get another win, and gust of win, and just arise to the occasion. So I want you to remember a few things that I often say as we dive into these questions for Curtis, right? Nothing changes unless you change, right? And whatever it takes for you to ready yourself for this information, you should. But here's the key: if you can get a hold of it, once you lock in, right? It just won't change the trajectory of your life, but your family life. And I believe it has the power to heal generations backwards and forward. So um Go ahead and just remember, nothing changes unless you change. And survival is not a retirement plan. I can go on and on and on. You cannot build a different financial future with the same financial habits. And lastly, I'll just say this: God didn't create you and I just to make a living. He didn't create us just to make a living. I believe he created us to build a legacy. Right, that's how people, that's how, if you look at the principles of Jesus, and and whatever you believe, right, that person is still around. We're still talking about that person, in the case for me, and what I believe, we're still talking about Jesus, because that's legacy, right? You want to be able to leave that, and you want to be able to live out your life in a powerful way. Like, um yeah, so let me dive into these
So if you
questions.
start with legacy, so because people come to me and say, "Well, I want to leave it. I want to build multi-generational wealth." Okay, well, guess what? You know what that starts with? Life insurance. Okay, because insurance is the only thing that guarantees, life insurance, that guarantees that what you want to have happen will happen, whether you're, even if you're not here to see it happen. That's so now, so you want to build your house on rock, on certainty, and then you work backwards. And now Terry's your coach to kind of build what I call your cash flow engines. But you've got to, I'm the defensive coordinator, I'm here to make sure you don't lose money, right? And that you're a good steward to your money, and then you're financially literate. And financial literacy is accounting, right? So you need to know how to read numbers, you need to know how to do good performa. You should be able, in your, with you, pencil out whether a deal is good for you or not. And too many people want shortcuts. So if you're listening to this and you feel like you're starting late, what I find is people are looking for shortcuts, right? They want to hit home runs because they feel like, oh, I'm 45 now, I'm 55, and you know, it's not too late, but you do have to change your game. Like, you can't just focus on what I call the accumulation theory, hoping that you build this big pile of money. You're going to have to, because become, investing is really more about becoming, right? Is be, then do, then have, right? And so you got to become your own banker. You got to become a good investor, right? And let me go back to the banking just so we're clear. So banking just
Well,
means,
wait,
but
we're gonna get there. So I want to make sure I ask the question. So if you're getting ready to very deep in it, just let me get through this part and start asking the questions so we can build up to that.
no,
Okay.
no,
If
go
that's,
ahead.
is that
No,
okay?
no, it's not okay. No, no, go ahead. Cool. Go ahead.
Well, Curtis, my friend, thank you for being here. We have people watching tonight who are just beginning. In some cases, they're just beginning their financial journey, and others who are business owners and investors, and some who simply know there has to be a better way to build wealth than what we've been taught, right? There's people, like you always say, I'm the offensive coordinator and I focus on the cash flow engines, but those cash flow engines are not just designed for today, the here and now. They can carry you today, but they're designed so that you can build in such a way that if you want your day to stop tomorrow, your day could stop tomorrow and you can continue to live, right? You're building for a purpose in mind. But I wanted to start with some foundational stuff. Curtis, for someone who's never heard the term before, what exactly is infinite banking?
So infinite banking is a process. Okay. It's a thought process. It's a saving process. So we teach people you have to capitalize, which means save. Okay. So that's habit number one. And then what we find is we have found that we use as the tool to implement the process. Now, I'm going to say a couple of very important things: properly structured, dividend paying, whole life with a mutual company. Okay. So properly structured is key. It's, when I say a mutual company, I've now fulfilled from probably 1,500 companies to about 12. And to get somebody that knows how to structure it properly, I've now fulfilled from about 100,000 agents to maybe less than 5,000. And I'm being generous when I say that. So you can't just, oh, I heard this thing and I'm going to call my cousin at so and so, and can you create me an infinite banking policy. Doesn't work like that. Can I do it on my job? No. And so that type of thing. So it's using insurance as a place to overfund the insurance as a place to store cash, and then you can use the contract to borrow against the savings, borrow against the cash value. And what that gives you is access to your money to do other things, earn it, bank it, borrow it, spend it, repay it. But while you're using it, your money continues to grow uninterrupted in a tax favored account.
Okay, so tonight, as we get through the next 20 minutes or so, I want to keep on bringing us back to some, financial pillars and things that will help us not only use it in this path, right? Because this is a strategy. There are a thousand of well, not a thousand, and don't go exploring a thousand. I think you should lock into about three of them and pursue those, but um the there are some so to some people that's hearing like create my own bank. I can't how do I even create more runway financially to create a bank, right? Um you know can you speak to what are just some general principles, financial principles, as we try to get people to financial stability and security and then to wealth? What are some of the things that you would recommend that people mm, I don't want to say perfect, that they spend more time becoming one with?
Yeah. So I actually teach 7. Okay.
Okay.
And so the first one, it seems obvious, but it's not necessarily obvious. It's spend less than you earn. Okay. Myron Golden has a saying: if your outflow is greater than your inflows, then your upkeep becomes your downfall. Okay. And so most people live on maybe 110% of what they earn because they finance their lifestyle using debt, right? And so debt is a future purchase that you make where the only way you have to pay for it is with money you've not yet earned. Okay. And so 35, so it's because, when you talk about banking, you got to understand what's the problem you're trying to solve. The problem is 35 cents, sometimes more of every dollar is leaving your personal economy going to outside financial institutions. So you have to get control of that. But how do you do that? Well, you have to manage cash flow. Most people don't even, but I don't actually think budgeting works. But right now, I'm going to say a budget, right? But meaning that you need to manage your cash flow. So we teach we call it cash flow mapping, because I think budgeting is like driving a car, but looking through the rearview mirror. You're looking at history, and whereas you need to create what we call a reservoir account where all your money flows into, and you got to separate income from consumption. That's a whole other lesson. But the thing is, you have to get control of your money. You have to pay attention to, all right, if what is my net pay and what am I spending, and is there margin? Because see, all wealth is a product or a result of free cash flow. So if you don't have free cash flow, you can't win. So so like boom, we could end the show right there, because you can't do that. You can't do infinite banking, okay? Because it's a saving strategy. So you got to work to, and that's really in our process. Step 1 is helping you find your free cash flow. Then once you have the free cash flow, my second principle is to save 15 to 20% of that. See, what we do is we might be saving, but we put money in little silos that we can't touch. Qualified plans, 529 plans. And so you think you're saving, you're really investing, and then you don't have access to money, so you've got to use debt because you don't have any money. Okay. You want to protect yourself, right? You got to play defense. See, the purpose of insurances is the word is indemnify you, bring you whole. So people get sick, people get disabled, people die, people get sued. You got to build what we call a moat around your castle. You want to have liquidity. So most people don't save enough. So I want you to have at least 3 months of your bills, but I prefer 6 to 12. Okay. And we talk about what we teach is velocity of money over accumulation, right? What I call the accumulation theory. So you want to assign your dollar a job, and then you want to, can you learn to do things? And this is, I think, where Terry can help you, is to deploy your capital from your banking systems into things that send you a check, right? I think you have to focus on financial freedom. What does that number look like for you? And then back, do the math out. So look, I need my I have a friend calls it a strike number. My strike number is $5,000 a month. So what type of assets do you need to do to develop 5K of passive income? Like, it's hard to reach a target you don't have. Okay, most people don't have it. Is working. Or you say, well, I'm investing. What do you want? So I want more money. For what? I don't, because I need more money so I can do more deals. For what? You know? And then this, my seventh principle is really, and this is like I got it, what's that good? The 7 habits of highly effective people is always sharpen the saw, right? So are you working at getting better? So when people say, well, I need to make more money, well, why don't you have more money? Because what you got to understand where money comes from. Money is a result of creating value in the marketplace. Okay. So if you're not making the money that you want to make, you're asking the wrong question. A better question would be, how can I serve more people? How can I solve a problem in the marketplace? How can I, so the focus can't be on you, the scarcity thinking. It's, how do you serve your fellow man? So if you're in business, how do you get more customers? How do you do a better job for your customers? If you're employed, how do you, um, um, I was arguing with somebody. I said, like, y'all think, just because you need a raise, you're supposed to get a raise, but have you created more value for the employer? Your money don't come from no magic direct deposit machine out the sky. You have to, something's got to be sold to pay you. I have this, my 25-year-old daughter all the time. Oh, I need more money. Well, what are you doing to generate more revenue for your employer? Are you taking a side? I'm not taking a side. I'm trying to teach you how the world works. Okay. And so don't get me started. So but I think when you
No,
learn,
I do. This is a moment of us, I guess, getting on our soapbox. It is crazy in the world we live in, but it's more crazy to me around for people around our age who's have this thinking, which is I do little, but I should get much, right? I think we've overvalued people, not overvalued. You can overvalue the human. I think the human is to be valued, but their skills, I think we have overvalued people's skill, or they're learning a new skill, or the education that they have, and without realizing education doesn't always translate to more value, right, or to production. And so you have these people who think, well, because I went here or because I got this degree, then you should pay me more. And they don't understand business works by customers and sales, right? And
right,
if you're not
right.
helping produce
That
either
only
one of
works
those.
in like education or something where you're not in free markets. You know what I mean? And
Mhm.
so you really have to learn how the world works and let go of some of that thinking. And
Sure.
you don't make more money because you've been somewhere a long time doing the same thing. That
N- and another thing that you mentioned, I'm a big proponent of, budgets are limited, and so you don't necessarily mean get rid of your lattes and stop eating out on Tuesdays, but how about you produce more income, which you're more than capable of doing, so that you can support the lifestyle that you want. Now there is wasteful spending, and then there is not, is oftentimes people just don't have enough money. And so to Curtis's point, you want to reduce your expenses, or I guess your expenditures, and increase your revenue,
appreciate revenue.
or
I think it's better to focus on production, because you can't, if just to cut expenses, you're focused on scarcity, and you can't focus on lack. You can't script your way to financial freedom. You've got to, because you can't get. First thing I do is we go through their numbers. You can't. Some people are not being a spendthrift. Now they're disorganized. Like I said, it's not that like so. A few things that we see off the bat: you're over withholding on your job. If you're getting a refund, you're overpaying your taxes. You are your cash flow is jacked up. You've got debt that's like a millstone around your neck, or a weight tied to your ankle. And so a lot of stuff that if you looked at all the subscriptions that you have, you may have or may not use, that's where I would get into lifestyle. But you just have to well, here's the thing. Everything that we've been taught about money, what Terry and I both call your personal economy, what you've been trained by what I call the financial industrial complex, you've been designed to transfer. Transfer means your money's going from your checking account to somebody else's, right?
Well, wait. This is a good way. No, I love this stuff because this is one of the questions I have for you. Because I know
Okay.
somebody when it's titled "Establish Your Own Banking," and maybe you don't really understand that because that's not where you come from. So you might be saying, "I already have a bank account. What's the difference between having a checking account and building a family banking system?" So I want you to lock in here because that's a legitimate question. We haven't been taught these things. I was laughing the other day. They taught you go to school, get in debt, but somewhere in the debt, because you were supposed to get the American dream. But if the job expectancy ain't there and you're overwhelmed in student loans, then how you gonna get right? So there's some things that were not taught to us, and so that's okay. That's why we
And they're
exist.
going into debt into getting a major in something that they haven't calculated what they make, what the cost to service the debt is, and then you're being trained to go to school, get your education, get a good job. But if you ever read Rich Dad Poor Dad, the first lesson in the book is rich don't work for money, right? Because they don't work for earned income because that's the highest tax. Like, so we don't understand the game that we're playing.
And here's in the homework assignment. There is 7 types of income. We're familiar primarily with earned income, right? But there are 7 types, or probably even more than that, and that you should be aware of, so that you can understand that earned income is you're not going to earn your way somewhere. Especially some people don't even have jobs that allow them to get promotions or to do overtime, right? And if it's capped at, well, we'll give you the cost of living raise. Well, if inflation is happening, that it is never on par with any of that. And if you have a family and you have all these dynamics, is going to be impossible. So you want to make sure you understand that there are multiple types of income that you should be pursuing. But Curtis, to your point, and Curtis said this earlier, one of our biggest mistakes is that we live 100% off of earned income, and that kills us, right? Literally, figuratively, spiritually, mentally, emotionally, it drains the tank. But go down that path of the difference between having a checking account and building a family banking system or your personal economy.
So the checking and savings account. So you need a bank account. Don't get it twisted. Okay. So let's be clear, because you need a place but you don't build wealth in a bank account. It's a transactional account so that, between a bank or a credit card, you got to buy stuff and, you got to transact. So it's a transactional account. It's not so a lot of people, what they'll do is all their money goes into their bank account, which is a operating account, and then they spend it. So they try to save and spend out of the same account, or maybe they move some of it into a savings account and they got to put it back. So you have to do something separate with it. So in our system, we say, look, they save it, then they take it back out. They save it, they're always putting and taking. We call that being on the treadmill. So what you have to do is we teach first rule of wealth is part of all you earn is yours to keep. You got to pay yourself first. So you got to move it out of the transactional account. And then we have 2 steps. We create what we call a wealth coordination account. and then from the wealth coordination account, which is just a checking account, we just want to separate your expenses from a place to begin to store savings, and from that account we fund their life insurance. So it's a whole because the life insurance isn't the bank. That's what most of these little yahoos on IG and stuff don't even really understand, and they're using like index universal life. Let me just throw that in there. So if you're hearing that, run, because they don't know what the hell they're talking about. So, and you can call me, you can chime in on the chat and disagree with me. But if Nelson Nash, I would ask you, have you read the daggone book? And then if he says don't use it, and he studied Austrian economics for 60 years. Oh, you don't know what that is? Okay. So, well, see, so because it's the book, it's really a book about economics. So there is like, if you ever read the book, read through the bibliography. And so now you really understand, there's a practitioner's program. So now you understand actuarially how the tool works, right? The insurance product, but that's not banking. Banking is just a money management system. So you got to spend less than you make. You got to move it off the top into a place that lets you store your cash, earn it, bank it, right? Somewhere to let you be the bank. What's the best place for that? Properly structured dividend paying whole life insurance. So you get paid into a bank account, and then you have to transfer it into another entity that allows you to store capital, where you have access to the money. And here's a word, through collateralization, which is just a fancy word that you can use it without using it. We call it contract wealth. You're using it. You can borrow against your money without withdrawing your money. Therefore, you get use, but your money always goes up. You have uninterrupted. Here's a word I used to not be able to say when I was, a registered advisor, a registered rep. I could guarantee that every year, if you will follow the principles, you will be better off than you were the year before. Guaranteed. If you say if you make 100 grand, I'll just use 100 because I don't feel like counting. But then, can you save $15,000 a year? So that means you got to live on 85,000. If you're tithing, then you got to work that out. But you've got to order your steps, because savings has to be automatic and systematic. So you can't you got to operate via principles. Now, the saving. There's another book I would have y'all get, The Richest Man in Babylon.
Well, wait, stay with okay, because we don't want to bounce, right? I want you to stay with that thought, and then I want you to answer, what financial habits should someone already have or begin developing before considering this strategy, right? So think of, wrap that thought up, but then I want you 3 main financial habits you believe someone should have, already have, or begin developing before considering this strategy.
So, one, I think that you've got to figure out, this, a lot of people don't start here, but you got to figure out what you want and why. What are you trying to accomplish? I think that it's hard to reach a target you don't have. So, you know what I mean? So you need to figure out what you're like. That's what I want to do. I mean, people, why are you here? What are we trying to accomplish? Okay. 2, then you've got to stamp on your forehead, part of all I earn is mine to keep. All right. So I actually don't, Terry, I don't even care about how, I'll say 10 or 15%. I don't care if it's 5%. It's really the habit more than the money. You got to have the habit that, all right, I'm going to spend less than I make. I'm going to save it, because the savings, one, give you peace of mind that you're not, because think about this. If your job were to leave you, or all of a sudden you didn't have income coming in, how long could you make it? Right? Could you make it? Most people couldn't last a month without no income. So that, if you can get 3 months, 6 months, you should be able to get yourself on your feet by then. So I don't care about investing initially, because you're still too fragile to economics, to wherever. So it's what do you want? It's savings has to be automatic and systematic. So it can't be. Well, see, what y'all do is I'll go. Uh, After I pay my bills, I try to save, but there's no money left over. Exactly. There's never any money left over. You've got to put yourself at the front of the line. And I don't care if somebody don't get paid. You have to get paid. You're working for it. Most people, if you make the average savings rate is like less than, it's like 4.5%. So that means if you make 100 grand, you're saving like 4,500. So if you think about if you've made 50 or 100 grand a year, uh, uh, household income 100 grand. So over the last 5 years, you've earned $500,000. How much you have in the bank? And if you don't change, how much you're going to have in the bank 5 years from now? Those are the inner questions that you got to ask yourself. And then why not? I would throw in, what are you reading? What are the last 3 books you read on money? You're working for money. Let's figure, why does it make sense to figure out how money works? Is that good?
Yo, that is so good. Let me tell you something, and I'm gonna say something. I don't want you. I'll talk to you backstage about it, but just go with it. It is a thing, and we'll talk about it. So the other day, my husband and I went to we were traveling, and we like to explore different vehicles, different rentals. And so is you want to I like to explore various options. And so we got this Beamer, and we didn't even know how to put the car in drive, right? And we couldn't find the features. I mean, it was like, and it made me think we're playing a game sometimes that we don't know the rules, right? We don't know how to use the thing that makes it go or drives it, so when he said, get books, right, it that came back to my remembrance. You want to be able, if you're going to show up to a game, and I love it when he said it. People be like, oh, it ain't about money. Yes, it is, because that's why you go to jobs you don't like, and that's why you
Without the
go when
money.
you don't feel well.
Right.
But you're working for it, so you might as well know how to leverage it and use it, and all of the things that come along with it. So I just wanted
Right.
to
The
give
word
that
is
point.
stewardship. You have to learn to be a good steward of our resources.
Yeah.
And we have to teach our kids how to become good stewards of our
Yeah.
resources. So
Yes,
that's
we do.
so the fourth principle in our process is develop a legacy of wealth and the wisdom to go along with it. That's how you
Yeah.
maintain multi-generational wealth. But if you don't learn the basics, like it's like football, blocking and tackling, and you want to run a free flicker, you don't know how to basic, or basketball, I don't know, a basketball player, you don't know how to pick and roll, you don't know how to do basics, right? And spend less than you make. That's basic. You can't do that. What are we talking about? We have to fix that. I won't even let people go to the next step until we figure out, do you have free cash flow, and help you figure out free cash flow. You can't do banking. So that's step one.
So, you know,
And read the book.
and
So
read the book. So, yeah, I mean, you want to read books, right? And one of my on my road to 50, one of my things that I want to do is read a book of 50 pages or more. Read an article of 50 pages or more. Finish a book that has 50 pages or more, right? And you be like, oh, that's should be nothing. Not in this day and age. It is almost a hardship, especially with these phones and all of these, audible, to really to spend time, dedicate time to doing it. But Curtis,
it's
okay,
being hard.
so
It's harder though, being broke.
absolutely,
So
I
choose
mean,
your heart.
it's more
Right.
expensive to be broke, right? So
Well, let's break the book thing down before I let you go. So don't think in terms of, I'm going to read 8 to 15 pages a day.
I
That'll
like
get
that.
you through like a dozen books a year at least, and that's
I
minimum.
like that. I like that. Because I think what happens, I'm gonna say for me, in case somebody out there is experiencing the same. For some reason, I equate book reading to time, and equate it to being stationary with time that I don't have. But I love that approach, which is don't think about, especially for us overachievers, sometimes we want to finish something in, at warp speed. But what the method that you just mentioned allows you to break it down into manageable chunks. And then for me, when I heard it, it was like, oh, that don't take much time, right? So just in case you're like me, and that's the reason why it's been a heavy lift, that's an awesome approach. And if you can connect that with your psyche, then you should be,
And
be
I'll give you a
successful.
cheat code. Audible counts. You can listen to audiobook.
So for me, the reason why I'm dedicating my time to reading, not only to strengthen the brain and strengthen the mind, and it is to have that still time to meditate and process it. I've gotten accustomed to Audible, but I'm either listening to it in the car, and while that is, okay, somebody may give you points for, well, it's on and it's playing in the background, but with traffic and all of the other distractions and your mind going a mile a minute, how much are you actually consuming, and how much are you actually consuming in order for an output, how much are you taking in to then produce something. And so one of the reasons why I am putting that on my list is because I think there is a flex and there is definitely an advantage to dedicated time, and because reading is fundamental, but dedicated time and processing it, right? Not just reading to, and I used to do this in college. I would sometimes read just enough to then be able to pass the test, right? Or I would read enough, I would glimpse at it enough to then have photographic memory, right? Like, and so, now for me, it got to count. Like, everything in my life has to count right now. And so thank you for sharing that approach. But, and so we talked about the financial habits. You gave them three financial habits. I want to ask this, right? What is the blessing and the benefit of having and establishing your own bank, right? So I like get into the details of it. Like, okay, where you got banks who, I just had recently had an appraisal, and I know that the appraiser was racist.
Mm.
And how do I know? Because I had two different appraisals, and one came in lower than the other. Not just $10,000, but it was almost like $40,000 lower. And we then sent in an appeal with comps, and he still
Mm.
suggested that he was sticking to his number, right?
Mm.
Um, for me, these systems are great because it gives you another option to still get things done, and just in case you hit a barrier, and then it's something you're in control of, you have ownership, right? And there's nothing better than ownership. The Bible talks about he who controls the purse controls the city, right? And so, what does that mean? Somebody got that bag, they being able to control, and we see it. How you like what Walmart produce? How you like what Target? How you really know that you like it? Is it because it's at a discounted rate, and so you now become, it become your favorite thing? Or maybe it just is only because it's at a discounted rate, but you done seen the discounts of it,
Right.
right? But oftentimes, can you really say, I like it for the sake of, I genuinely like this thing, I genuinely want it? Or are you being told through marketing and advertising what you should have? All right, Curtis, I'm sorry. I got, getting ready to go in, because I'm like you.
Well,
And so,
I sum up a lot of what you said to he who has the gold make the rules. Okay, and this is one of things from Nelson Nash's book, Becoming Your Own Banker. But one of the statements I'm starting to make of our people, the only difference between chaos and opportunity is who holds the cash when the storm hits. So you have to save because, all right, so let's talk about benefits. How about peace of mind?
Wait, yo, that's good. Well, first, can you repeat that? The
The
difference
only
between
difference between
mhm.
chaos and opportunity, you know, that little sign, that Chinese sign, that chaos and opportunity are on the same coin. But the only difference between chaos and opportunity is who holds the cash when the storm hits. So if you had lots of cash, let's use a real example for real estate investors, and COVID happens. So we had clients that we've had funding their banking system for several years. And, you know, when the government made it legal for your tenants not to pay you, but the mortgage company still wanted their money, what if you had cash that you could access with a fax or a phone call to help keep you afloat until all the programs kicked in, and then you could just pay your capital back and keep it moving? You know, what if uh somebody that was not illiquid, that had to liquidate a property in a fire sale, and you could, again, with a phone call, have access to capital without qualifying, without asking for a bank for permission, okay, and get money right away. I just had a client that was looking to buy a house for they're like on the West Coast in Washington, one of my laundromat owners, and look, Curtis, we're going to get a loan. We're going to use some of his cash, but he borrowed 300 grand out of his policies and bought a house, loaded to his LLC, bought a house. You know, no banks, no appraisals, none of that stuff. And then we're setting up his loan documents, and then the daughter and the roommate going to pay rent back to their LLC. So you want to run your money like a business. Okay. How about in most states, creditor protection? It's invisible, it's private. There's a death benefit tied to it. So when you pass away, because it's not if, you know, your family gets a tax-free windfall. So now, you know, one of the things that we talk about, what are the benefits of owning the process of banking, and then the tool of permanent insurance, is that you you get, it's like a turbocharger. If you can be the bank or control the financing, it's like having a tailwind to everything you do. Everything you do gets better if you control the financing. Now, how do you do that? If y'all go to my YouTube channel, I got the 4 levels of banking that we did a couple of weeks ago. And because a lot of people hear it, but they will say, well, I want to be to a bank, I want to be able to buy houses. Then the next question they ask me is, how little can I start with?
Okay, and that's going to be, so you're hitting my next question, because these next few questions, one, I want to say the how to's will be, you'll have multiple opportunities to learn the how to's. One, go to Curtis's website. Two, tap into the challenge next week. Three, Curtis is having an event next week, an in-person event. You may learn a little bit there. And then four, we have a community where he's going to be walking us through, you know, step by step of implementation of it. So you'll have multiple opportunities on the how-tos. I just want to kind of share the possibility so that you can start getting your mind wrapped around, this is something I need to be thinking about. This is something, if I was thinking about it, I need to go ahead and pull the trigger. Or this is something that, okay, how do I position myself to think about it and pull the trigger? So this is what tonight is about. And so my next question, and I want you to answer these, because in about 5 minutes we're going to start to wrap up. I want you to answer these in maybe 1 minute, right? One minute, and you're going to be on a timer. For the person that says, I don't have much money, can they still? Why are you laughing? for the, for the I love this guy. Okay,
I'm like a Baptist minister. It takes me 20 minutes to clear my throat.
I know. I know. And then you be having 25 in exits and closings. But I ain't even mad at you because this is where we live. Me and you could do this all night long. But for people, they say y'all, but I beg to differ. They say y'all attention span is like that of a fifth grader or something like that. I don't know what it say. I have more hope and faith in you all because this is for
Go ahead. I'm
me.
gonna focus. I'm
This
gonna be
this is
succinct.
where the life is, y'all. This is where it's at. I don't care nothing about Nicki Minaj, and I don't care about what Cardi B is doing, and I don't care what the last rapper did because they got their plan. They got people working their plan for them. For us, right? And guess what? They building off of what we give to them. So it's time for us to take back that authority and take back those assets and that energy and put it into our lives so then we can build sustainably and we can keep learning how to make money, manage it, maintain it, move it around, and multiply it like that's come next week you'll be able to see my blueprint for that. But Curtis, in a minute, I want you to in 1 minute, under a minute, I want you to answer these questions. For someone who says, I don't have much money, can they still begin building their own banking system?
Yes.
This guy.
So,
This guy. All right, just a little. And you
yeah.
on the
Well,
finance.
it's all
30
relative.
seconds.
So the question is what's affordable and comfortable for you, right? So people say, how much does it cost? That's not a question. The question, and where do I start out with? How much should you be saving of your income? You know, 10 to 15% or more, right? So I don't care if you make $50,000 a year, then $5,000 a year is $400 a month. So that's $100 a week. That's how you back into the number.
Awesome. Okay, what are the biggest misconceptions people have about infinite banking?
One, where do we start? So they they think it's some kind of magic money box, right? So they think it's like a high yield investment account. They'll say I'm investing in insurance. They think they're borrowing their own money, right? When you're not borrowing your money, you're paying a premium, you building up cash value. When you take a loan, or we call it collateral position against the insurance company loans you their money. That's why your money continues to grow uninterrupted. Okay. And it's what insurance is, it promises a result, right? And so the big misconception, I think people look for it. I think advisors kind of what's the word, gaslight them into looking for this policy to do all tax-free retirement and all this whiz bang stuff that insurance is not designed to do. I think they overhype what you can do with it. When I look at it, I separate saving from investing, and I want to save safe, liquid, accessible, guaranteed, and I want a place to access my money to invest in my business, to invest on
Yeah.
options. I don't need the
Yeah.
storage facility to do backflips.
I don't need a storage facility to do backflips. The other thing is his analogies be off the chain. All right, what's one mistake people make that prevents them from ever creating financial stability?
They don't save. They don't manage cash flow, and they don't save, and they don't make it a priority. I know I said three things, but it's all of that. Like it's you gotta get serious that I want to win financially. You gotta stop making excuses and I can't, and the economy's bad, and all that nonsense, all that noise.
And for the person, because you might be like me, well, I can't unsee what I'm seeing, right? But you can decide if it distracts you from your thing or not. You can decide how much of it you allow to consume you that then paralyzes you from doing anything. We still have our own roles and responsibility in our lives, right? And so, I just want to say this, and I want you to come a little closer, you, ma'am, sir. We're not trying to impress people with income. We're trying to create options through ownership, right? That has to be the goal. We're not trying to impress people with income. We're trying to create options through ownership. Okay. All right.
Let
I
me hit
want to do
that for a
one.
second. See, so I don't even watch the news, right? So the news's job is not to inform, it's to startle, right? And then you're not getting news, you're getting people's opinions or an agenda they want you to do. So I I might watch, I'll watch business news and sports, and I might watch like 10 minutes, and then it's a wrap. And then it's like, I'm working, or it's YouTube videos. I really control what I let into my psyche. And then I'll leave you with this quote. That's one of my favorite quotes from Jim Rohn. When you're talking about, oh, it's the war, it's who's in the White House, it's all this stuff. It's the Jim Rohn says the winds of adversity blow on us all, but the difference is how you set the sail, right? And so so if you're sailing, you got to pick a destination you're trying to go to, and the wind is going to blow. That's how the boats move, but you got to learn to set a better sail. So when I talk about improving yourself, I focus on, can I make Curtis better, because I'm the captain of my ship and I've got to get better. It doesn't matter what the economy is doing. You have a personal economy, and your job is to control the production. You're CEO of your life, and your job is to control the production, what you bring in, and the consumption in your family unit. That's what you control, and you can't control nothing else. And so I think that, because when you point at something else, if you look back, there's three fingers pointing at you, and you need to grow up and take responsibility for your life and stop looking for somebody else to come save you, because ain't nobody, there's no political saviors.
Yeah, nobody is coming to save us. You have to participate in your own rescue. And I say be aware of what's going on, because being in law enforcement, what people typically don't do is not being aware of their surroundings. We call it situational awareness. You should be aware of what's happening around you, because it could be that one policy that has snuck in, that now it does dictate how you do business, i.e., investors, i.e., the city of Philadelphia, right? Because there are policies being made all of the time that affects our daily living. It affects how employers pay you. It affects, and so the idea is, some things you should have situational awareness around, so that you can get ahead of it, right? So that you can prepare in advance. Okay,
Yeah.
so I would say don't let it consume
That's,
you.
yes, I agree with that 100%, because you got to know how it's supposed to work so you can hold your elected officials accountable. So I pay attention to that, and I'm very critical of that. And Nelson Ash would say, I have no original thoughts, as y'all can see, is that um I forgot the thought is
All right.
oh
Well,
no, if
let
you know
me.
what's going on, you know what to do.
It's right. So we want, and we're here to teach people how to be prepared. Noah didn't wait for the rain to fall, the flood to come before he started building the ark, right? So these things help us insulate ourselves. Not that
Here's a
recession is
fun
not going
fact. Do
to
you know it
happen.
had never
Wait,
rained
wait, let me finish
before?
this thought. Not that recession ain't going to happen. You want to be recession proof. All right, say your thought, and then I'm gonna ask one more question, and then we closing up. But make sure
I've
y'all see
heard
this.
from that, when Noah built the ark, it had never rained before. That's not how the water got into the earth. So when he saw it was going to rain, that was the foreign thing, and it hadn't rained in the history of mankind up to that point. So just so.
Well, we can explore biblical principles. Come to the
I went
Terry
to
Talk.
Christian school and Christian college, so we
Come,
studied
come,
Bible as a
come
class.
to
So.
Terry Talks on Thursday. We got Built to Last on Tuesday, and we got Terry Talks on Thursday. That over there is where faith, finances, and freedom
All right, there
intersect.
we
So
go.
we can explore that. All right, real quick as we wrap. How can parents, under a minute, how can parents begin teaching these principles to children? Like, they say, teach it to me like I'm a fifth grader, or if you can learn it as, whatever. Just how can parents begin teaching these principles to children?
Number one, and I'm talking to me when I say this, because you got to allow time to do it. Games, Monopoly, the cash flow game from Rich Dad Poor Dad, cash flow for kids. and so you can begin to train little. Some of y'all think it's a bad word, so if I could, I would smack you if you frown at me. But you got to teach little capitalists, right? Capitalism just means an ever expanding system of cooperation among strangers. So you can't have your kids growing up hating society, hating capitalists, because that's the society that we live in. That's why that's why people try to get here. Okay. And so you want to teach that. There's another book I had my kids read. It's called The Tuttle Twins. And I'm trying to get the guy on my podcast, and he teaches kind of these like libertarian concepts. There's a book called Atlas Shrugged, one of my favorite books, but there's Searching for Atlas, but it's in a child book format. So it's taking these complex concepts and putting in the child book. So I would have my daughter read it, or I would have her bigger sister read it, so I could try to kill two birds with one stone. Because if they're going to indoctrinate them at school, hell, I might as well indoctrinate them myself.
Exactly. And that's what cash flow and wealth allows you to do. Educate your children the way you want, that you want to. All right, come on. Rapid fire as we come to a close tonight. And don't forget, tap in next Tuesday. We will be here with another topic to help you build financial stability, financial security, so you can ultimately build financial wealth for generations that last. I'm going to say something. You can't think about it, just answer it, and then we're going to wrap. Okay. All right. Wealth or income?
Income.
Dude. Asset or liability?
Asset.
Saving or investing?
Saving.
Cash flow or net worth?
Cash flow.
Stewardship or consumption?
Stewardship.
Legacy or lifestyle?
Legacy.
Freedom or comfort?
Freedom.
Ownership or dependency?
Ownership.
Curtis, one of the things we say here at Built to Last is working harder isn't the same as building wealth. If you could leave our audience with one final thought, one principle, one mindset, or that could completely transform the way they think about money, what would it be? One, Curtis, one, either a principle, a mindset, a thought. What would it be?
I would start with the first principle of the richest man in Babylon: part of all you earn is yours to keep. Like, spend less than you make and save. Everything else will flow from that, because all wealth is a result of free cash flow.
Listen, y'all, I absolutely love this conversation because tonight wasn't really about insurance. It wasn't really about banking. It wasn't really about policies. It was about thinking differently, building differently, and preparing differently, y'all. Because the families who thrive tomorrow are making different decisions today. Yeah, they're not waiting until tomorrow, right? It's too late then. They're making different decisions today. And at Built to Last, we believe financial freedom is intentional. Financial stability is built, financial security is planned, and legacy is designed. That's why we exist. If tonight stretched your thinking, don't stop here. We want you to join us inside the Escape Survival Challenge, because I don't believe that we were created to live in perpetual cycles of stress, strain, struggle, or survival, but that we should be living, being, and thriving. Curtis mentioned that earlier, and I often say we don't have a doing problem as much as we have a being problem. Some folks can't even sit still 10 seconds, right? Because we're busy. And busy doesn't equate to productivity or advancing, the ball down the court or moving the needle. We'll help you move from surviving to building to multiplying to leaving a legacy, because nothing changes until something changes. And if you're ready to build, there's no better time. There's no better time than now. There is no better time than now. And so, Curtis, I want you to tell them about your event again. My challenge to you, if you're serious about building differently, about leaving differently, experiencing differently, just having more in store, then that means that you have to have a corresponding action with your belief. The Bible says that faith without works is dead, being alone. But if you show me your works with your faith, then if you show me your works with what you believe, then that's your faith, right? And so I'm going to challenge you to do three things, and that is each month get around, get in rooms that can help you cultivate these principles. Cultivate, if you struggle with managing money, well, you're not going to become better at it being around people who don't manage well, right? If you struggle with multiplying your money, because that's how you create the runway, then get around people who are multiplying it. If you're trying to leave a legacy and you're like, oh, I love that idea, I don't know where to start, well, if you keep being around people who don't prioritize that, then you will never get there, right? And so I'm going to challenge you, to get in these rooms that can help you move the needle in the areas that you say that you want to grow, and particularly in this area of your finances. And so we're going to give you a couple options. One, go ahead and register. It should be in the chat. The Escape Survival Challenge. You'll hear more of Curtis if you if you register for the VIP portion. And in that segment, he is going to customize. He's going to give some real life scenarios for people to actually execute the banking strategy live in time. Yes, I said live in time. So this is not one of those challenges where we just want to pump you up. No, we're going to give you the how to's so that you can implement, because today is like beyond time, right? So you want to make sure that you're in those rooms that not can just tell you what the dream is or what the possibilities are, but how to actually execute them and start cash flowing today, tomorrow, and positively cash flowing today, tomorrow, and for generations to come. And then Curtis has an event, if you're in the Philadelphia area, surrounding area, on Thursday, the 25th, is
Yeah.
it?
Hmm.
Okay. Can you share a little bit about it, the location, and we'll
Yeah,
make sure
so
it's
that
also.
event it's you might need to email me, but it's a place called the Haverford Reserve Community Recreation Center. I'll try to find the address. I was trying to look for it while you were talking. But it's called the Small Business Profit Lab. So this is for business owners, established business owners more so, where I wanted to get together. One of the things as an advisor, I think that the best investment is your business, right? And so it's a kind of a mastermind of us getting together, sharing or learning best practices of how to become more profitability, how to grow revenue, how to lead generate for our business. Because the purpose of business is to make the owner rich.
Hmm.
Period. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? And so we want to get a group together where we don't have to apologize for that, where people will encourage you to how can you make more money? How can you create more profits? How can you grow? And there's, are you, we talk about multiple streams of income. Well, multiple streams of lead generation, multiple streams of, so the more ways you have
Hmm.
to meet people, the more secure, so that you can be present. You want to go on vacation and not worry about what's going on back at the shop because you built a business that works. You know what I mean?
So make sure you come to the
Make sure you
event
come to the event.
on the Thursday.
So
We're
it's
going to
monthly
be
though. It's every month. So every month we're going to be building on that. But the next one is the 25th. It's called the Small Business Profit Lab. So if you're in the tri-state area, it's worth driving over. And we're going to have some dynamic entrepreneurs. We need you in a place. We need your voice because y'all are smart. Y'all know stuff. And we want it to, everybody's going to come up. My goal of this
okay.
is
Wait,
to be
don't
more
go there.
profitable
Don't we?
every month. I want you to make more money than you made the month before.
Okay. So, and I want to be mindful of our time because this thing is getting ready to cut off. So I'm not being rude to him, but I want to be able to get the pertinent information out, and then the details you can find out in his promo and all of that. So we're going to make sure that his link is inside of our chat and on our website for the details. So make sure you stay connected and you stay tapped in for all of these great events that can not just build you today, build you and your family today, but for tomorrow and for generations to come. And with that, we have our link as well, which is built to last.com for all upcoming events, and Curtis event will be there. I promise you that it will be there. So um thank you, Curtis, for just being who you are. One day we're going to set aside 2 hours or three for me and you to just have a dialogue, right? And uninterrupted, and let people know in advance. Go and get your coffee, your blankie, go and get and just lock in and tap in. But I promise you, if you do tap in, it'll change your life forever. It is transformative in nature. So with that, we are built to last. Thank you for being here. God bless you. Continue to thrive. And we will see you next week right here. Don't forget, share this live out, right? Because the more people get the information, exposure leads to expansion. They can be able to be in a position to own more as well. And share it out, share, subscribe, and even comment. Tell us what you need help with. You're trying to build financial stability and security, and you need some help, or you're trying to scale and you need some help. Put that in the comments and we will make sure we accommodate you and get you the information you need. All right, until next time, God bless you. Thank you, Curtis, for being an amazing guest, sir, and an amazing friend. Thank you.
My pleasure. Good night, everybody.
Good night, good people. I thought you was going to say it. I thought you was going to say good night, good people.
Good night. Good night, sweet prince. No, I was kidding.
This guy. Bye, y'all.
Yes. All right, y'all.